Yeah, I see the title, man. Let's get to it.
If you go online and search around social media, you'll quickly find out that Steph Curry has so many fans. It's very understandable. The guy is the greatest shooter that the game of basketball has ever seen. He spaces the floor like no one else has before, and with him leading the way, he has pushed the NBA into a new era, focused almost entirely on three-point shooting. He's also a 6'3" player who isn't an athletically gifted freak like many modern-day superstars. Yet he still finds a way to be an elite ball player year in and year out. Many people find this quality admirable. No matter how you slice
I used to be a big Steph Curry fan as well during like 2016, 2017.
it, Steph has firmly established himself as one of the greatest basketball players to ever live. Now, with that being said, many of his fans online, many modern athletes, and much of the mainstream media are anxious to put him into the top spot of the greatest point guards of all time. And my response to that is,
Stop it. Get some help.
it's not that I think Steph isn't on his way to the top. He's still very elite, and by the end of his career, he might just be the consensus pick over Magic Johnson. But in my opinion, this is the perfect example of recency bias, and way too many people being a slave of the moment. It's so premature to already put him in the top spot, but many people forget just how dominant Magic Johnson was in such a short period of time. Unlike many of today's modern legends, Magic wasn't blessed with a long and healthy career. In 1991, he shook the world with his announcement that he had obtained HIV. You need to understand, when Magic played his last game before that announcement, he was only 31 years old. Think about other NBA greats if they retired at that same age. Dirk Nowitzki would no longer be an NBA champion. LeBron James would only have 2 rings instead of 4, Shaq would have 3 titles instead of 4, Duncan would have 4 titles instead of 5, Michael Jordan would only have 3 titles instead of 6, and Steph Curry would only have 3 titles instead of 4. Magic Johnson had 5 championship rings when he had to retire at such an early age, and there was still a second half of his career in store that we never got to witness. Who knows? Magic may have ended up with 7 or 8 championships if he wasn't forced to retire early. Now, don't get me wrong. My point isn't to give Magic credit for things that he actually didn't accomplish. But what you certainly can't argue is the fact that Magic built a GOAT candidate resume in roughly half the time that it took everyone else to build theirs. Also consider this. In the last 2 seasons leading up to that retirement, Magic was the league MVP in 1990, and he was the MVP runner-up in 1991. In Game 5 of the 91 Finals, which was the last game of that season, Magic had 16 points, 20 assists, and 11 rebounds. He got 20 assists in a Finals game, while his 2 best scoring options were out with injuries, which were James Worthy and Byron Scott. Not only were there no signs of him slowing down, but you could argue that he was just as good as ever. Steph has already significantly passed Magic in seasons played, yet he's still trying to catch him in terms of every major accolade, including MVPs, championships, Finals MVPs, and all NBA teams. This is because Magic was incredible from the start of his career until the very end. The greatest playoff performance in NBA history was when a 20-year-old rookie guard replaced an injured Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at center and won the championship-clinching 6th game with a total of 42 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists, and 3 steals on 61% shooting. And what people
they said they put him at center for that game.
Often fail to consider is how a rookie Magic did that against the Philadelphia 76ers, who were the #1 ranked defense that season. That was Magic's impact in his first season. While on the other hand, Steph Curry wasn't even considered as an elite player in the league until his 4th or 5th season. Again, I just can't emphasize enough how Magic didn't have the luxury of a full career like many other greats did. In this modern NBA, LeBron James is entering his 21st season in the league, Chris Paul is entering his 19th, and Kevin Durant is entering his 16th. John Stockton was another great point guard from Magic Johnson's era, and he played 19 seasons in the NBA. Magic only played 12 seasons before HIV caused him to retire. If he had a career as long as the other greats I previously mentioned, then he would have been competing for championships alongside of Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant in the twilight of his career. In Magic's 12 seasons before the announcement, he made it to the NBA Finals 9 out of those 12 seasons. And in the entire Western Conference, he finished the highest in the MVP race 9 seasons straight. That is dominance. If we're being honest, that's a level of individual dominance that Steph Curry can only dream of, as his longest streak was just 2 seasons. Now, some Steph Curry fans will argue in his favor, saying that Steph changed the game with his three-point shooting, and thus did something that
Magic saved the game, man. You know? Magic and Larry, they saved the game. So it's like, yeah, Curry did that, but without Magic and Larry, you know what I'm saying?
no other great has ever done before. I'm gonna be honest, I hate this argument so deeply, because it isn't nearly as unique as they make it seem. When you narrow down the list of the top 10 greatest players of all time, nearly every one of them did something that completely changed basketball. For example, Michael Jordan made the game global. Larry Bird and Magic Johnson literally saved the NBA in the 1980s. Wilt Chamberlain changed the rulebook because of his dominance, as the league office was looking for ways to slow him down and balance the league. Bill Russell won more championships than any other player in NBA history. Other than Bill Russell, the longest streak of championships by a player is 3 straight rings. Bill doubled that, and then added 2 more on top of it. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar uniquely dominated the league, as he introduced the most indefensible shot of all time, the skyhook. In the history of the game, no player has ever had an entire conference gearing up to stop him like Shaquille O'Neal did in the early 2000s. I could keep going, but as you can see, many all-time greats have done things that have changed the game. So Curry fans saying, "My boy changed the game with his shooting," isn't swaying anything when you're looking at the select few greatest players of all time. Earlier I mentioned how mainstream media is already pushing this narrative. One of those people is Colin Cowherd, who claims that Steph Curry has already surpassed Magic Johnson, due mostly to the fact that Steph is a great shooter and Magic is not. I'm not gonna lie, this is one of the dumbest arguments you could possibly make when comparing greats. Holding past legends to the standard of what makes players great in the modern game is ridiculously biased and seems desperate for a hot take. If you went back in time and during the 1980s, you told Magic Johnson he wasn't the best point guard because he couldn't shoot from the perimeter, he would probably say, "What the hell does that have to do with me winning a championship?" Magic was the guy who found his shooters, like Michael Cooper and Byron Scott. And at that time, that era wasn't defined by screens and three-point shooting, but it was defined by fast break transitional basketball, which no one was better at than Magic. None of those stars in the 80s gave a damn about winning a hypothetical horse competition with players from the future. They were trying to win championships in that era based on the style of that era, and clearly Magic was very good at doing that, which should be what truly matters. Now listen, this video is not intended to come across as a Steph Curry slander video. My only point is that people are young and overreactive sometimes, and they're prematurely trying to put him in a spot that currently belongs to someone else. As of now, Magic has the edge in dominant consistency, championships, and individual accolades.
And I feel like Magic impacted those championship winning teams way more. You know, well, not way more. On some runs, Curry did his thing, but then there's some runs where he had KD. You know what I'm saying? Some runs where he didn't win the Finals MVP. Iguodala won it. You know, things like that. I feel like I feel like Magic dominated the finals every time he got there. You know, so it's like the impact they had on winning. I feel like Magic's impact was just
I
way
just
more
don't
than
see an
Curry's.
angle where you can
On a
legitimately
general term, I
elevate
guess you
Steph
could say
Curry
this.
above
On
him
average.
at this current time. With that being said, Steph isn't showing any signs of slowing down either, and shooting ability
facts, though.
is one of the
That's one
skills
thing.
that age the most gracefully in the NBA. So you would be foolish to say that it's impossible for him to pass Magic at some point in the future. As
But that's the end of this one, y'all. Y'all know what to do, man. If you enjoyed, share the video with your peoples on social media platforms. Click on the last reaction, turn on post notifications. And I'm out of here, man.